We often hear that every person is unique, but some individuals are genuinely extraordinary, standing out because of their remarkable traits. Today, we're diving into stories of people who refuse to disappear into the crowd. From those with astonishing abilities to others born with strange and rare medical conditions, here are the 15 freaks of circus that actually existed. Number 15. Kitty Smith. Unlike many sideshow performers born with rare conditions, Kitty's injuries were the result of cruelty. In 1891, at age 9, she refused to cook for her drunken dad. In response, he held her arms to a burning stove until they were irreparably damaged. Both limbs were later amputated. Her father avoided jail for lack of evidence, while Kitty became a ward of the state. Dr. F.M. Gregg, moved by her resilience, raised funds to support her recovery and education. Under careful guidance, she adapted quickly, learning to write, embroider, play piano, and even paint, all with her feet. When funding ran dry, she turned to the stage, performing at Coney Island and touring with Barnum and Bailey. She also supported herself by selling her art and autobiography. In her memoir, Kitty forgave her dad, rewriting the narrative to say her burns came from an accidental fire. That revision spoke volumes. Forgiveness, in her case, was its own quiet rebellion. Number 14. The Alligator-Skinned Man. Emmett Bejano, best known as the Alligator-Skinned Man, was born in Florida with ichthyosis, which is a rare genetic disorder that coated his skin in thick, scaly patches, except for his hands and face. His appearance was unforgettable. Emmett entered the sideshow world and eventually met Priscilla, the famous Monkey Girl, while working for the Lawther organization. Their bond deepened, and they married in 1938. Priscilla gave birth to a daughter, who tragically died of pneumonia. Later, they adopted a son named Tony and continued touring under the title, The World's Strangest Married Couple. Unlike many, they built their own show, traveled the country, and managed their careers independently. Emmett had been adopted by Johnny Bejano after losing his biological father, shaping a life filled with unexpected love and family. He passed away on May 14, 1995, and then Priscilla followed him on February 5, 2001. Their 57-year marriage was more than a headline. It was a portrait of resilience, loyalty, and unconditional devotion. Number 13. William Dirks. William was born in rural northern Alabama with a face that seemed otherworldly. A cleft palate split the center of his face, and a condition called frontonasal dysplasia exaggerated his features, leaving what looked like two separate noses. Raised in isolation without access to education or social circles, he eventually left home as a teenager and entered the sideshow world. In New York's Hubert's Museum, he painted a third eye between his brows, turning his haunting features into a fully developed character. Audiences were stunned, but Dirks didn't flinch. He made a career of his image, earning $100 a week by the 1960s, solid money in the sideshow circuit. Now, what's even more surprising is that he found love. He married Mildred, known as the alligator-skinned woman, and together they carved out a life beyond the spectacle. William's story wasn't about deformity or pity. It was about resilience, creativity, and finding connection in a world that often refuses to look beyond the surface. So, never give up. Number 12. Sarah Howold. Sarah has built a global career in circus and physical theater, with aerial rope work, hoop sequences, and character-driven acts that defy expectations. She also competed as a Paralympic swimmer for Australia at the 2000 Sydney Games. Born with Hallermann-Streiff syndrome, Sarah is legally blind and stands just 144 centimeters tall. But her height and vision never defined her limits. She openly reclaims the term natural-born freak, placing herself in the long tradition of performers who embraced difference with pride. Her acts blend movement, timing, and vulnerability into performance art that doesn't just entertain, it communicates. Offstage, she's equally impactful, working in arts advocacy and accessibility leadership across New South Wales. In the circus world, she's a standout not for what she overcomes, but for what she owns. Every performance is precise, intentional, and grounded in presence. For Sarah, disability isn't a footnote, it's the foundation of her creative voice. She doesn't hide her difference. Number 11. The Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. In the late 1800s, Barnum's Sideshow introduced a family unlike anything American audiences had seen. A true Burmese bloodline covered in dense silky fur from head to toe. The condition, later identified as hypertrichosis, had passed down through generations since their ancestor She Maung was born in 1796 in what is now Laos. At just 5 years old, She Maung was gifted to the king of Ava and raised in the royal court as a beloved jester. He married at 22 and fathered children with the same condition, including his daughter Mafoon. When Burma erupted in political upheaval in 1885, the royal palace was destroyed. The family fled into the jungle and eventually reached England as refugees. A British naturalist described them as highly educated, refined, and kind. In 1888, they joined Barnum's American tour under the name The Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. Then they vanished from history, disappearing as mysteriously as they arrived, leaving behind a bloodline shrouded in legend. Number 10. Lucia Zarate. Lucia was born in 1864 in Veracruz and holds the record as one of the smallest fully developed humans in medical history. Standing at 24 inches and weighing only 4 pounds in adulthood, she was diagnosed with Majewski osteodysplastic primordial dwarfism type 2, which is a condition that kept her bones extremely small and brittle. Despite her fragile frame, Lucia was mentally sharp, animated, and charismatic on stage. By age 12, she was already a headline act in the United States, performing in dime museums and touring exhibitions under the banner, The Smallest Living Woman. Her presence was captivating, graceful movements, expressive eyes, and a magnetic charm. Yet, behind the stage curtains, life was harsh. In 1890, during a winter train journey to Colorado, she became stranded in a blizzard. Without proper heat, she tragically died from exposure at age 26. Though tiny in stature, Lucia's cultural impact was massive, her life a moving reminder of how spectacle often concealed profound human vulnerability. Number 9. The Clown Who Ran for President. Dan Rice blurred the line between satire, politics, and performance long before anyone knew it could be done. Born Daniel McLaren in 1823, he trained pigs to nod yes and no on cue, performed strongman acts, and fired off political commentary, sometimes all in a single show. He was earning $1,000 a week before Barnum was even a name. During Zachary Taylor's presidential campaign, Rice offered up his circus wagon as a mobile stage. That's where "jump on the bandwagon" came from. He also popularized the phrase "one-horse show," borrowed from his early budget tours. Rice didn't just entertain, he shaped language and politics. In 1864, he ran for the Pennsylvania State Senate. In 1868, he made a genuine bid for president. He lost, but the impact stuck. He was a clown, a satirist, a showman, and for a moment, a serious political contender. Dan didn't perform on stage. He used the circus as a stage to reflect America back at itself. Number 8. Pickled Punks. Well, the name almost sounds like satire, something out of a bad punk band. But pickled punks referred to something far more unsettling: preserved human fetuses, stillborn or aborted, suspended in formaldehyde within glass jars. These real, once-living specimens became freak show fixtures, labeled as both scientific wonders and grotesque attractions. The concept wasn't new. As early as the 1600s, King Frederick III of Denmark maintained a vast collection. Later, Italian naturalist Ulisse Aldrovandi amassed over 18,000 preserved specimens, many displaying rare deformities. The practice lingered well into the 20th century, drawing crowds who couldn't decide whether to look away or closer. What makes this phenomenon so disturbing isn't just the jars themselves, but how they embodied everything wrong with voyeurism disguised as education. Audiences paid to stare. Some felt horror, others fascination, but most just gawked. The pickled punk wasn't just a preserved body. It was the freak show's quietest, darkest manipulation, a spectacle that spoke no words yet demanded attention. Well, nothing is real. Number 7. Daisy and Violet Hilton. Daisy and Violet were born conjoined at the pelvis in 1908 in Brighton, becoming the UK's first conjoined twins to survive infancy. Abandoned by their mom, they were raised by Mary Hilton, their employer, who turned them into performers by age 3. After Mary's death, they were handed off to her daughter and son-in-law, who continued to exploit them. Taken to the US, the twins endured years of control until winning their legal independence in 1931. They performed in vaudeville, burlesque, and starred in Freaks and Chained for Life. But as public interest faded, their tour manager abandoned them after a final show at a North Carolina drive-in in 1961. With nowhere to go, they found work as grocery clerks. In 1969, they were discovered dead at home after missing shifts, Daisy dying first of the flu, Violet days later. While used and overworked, they passed not as curiosities, but simply as sisters, tired, quiet, and deeply bonded. Number 6. The Ohio Bigfoot Girl. Fanny Mills, later known as the Ohio Bigfoot Girl, was born in the 1860s with Milroy's disease, a rare condition that caused massive swelling in her lower limbs. Her feet grew to nearly 50 centimeters in length and 20 centimeters wide, making mobility a constant struggle. But Fanny didn't hide. She leaned into the spectacle. She toured museums and sideshows, showing the specially crafted shoes built for her swollen feet and earning enough to support her family. Where others might have disappeared from public view, Fanny faced the stares and turned them into income. Reporters followed her across the country, and her name became part of freak show folklore. She later married and retired from touring, passing away in 1899, most likely from complications tied to her condition. Her legacy isn't a medical one, it's personal. She stood on her own terms, publicly, boldly, and with full awareness of her impact. Fanny didn't just endure attention, she used it to carve independence. Well, we really feel sad for this lady. Number 5. Millie and Christine McCoy. Millie and Christine McCoy were born into slavery in 1851 in North Carolina, conjoined at the lower spine and pelvis. Known as the two-headed nightingale, their early years were marked by exploitation as they were sold multiple times in infancy. Eventually, they came under the care of Joseph Pearson Smith, a merchant who recognized their potential and invested in their growth. Under his guidance, they were educated in multiple languages, music, and public performance. The twins toured internationally, performing vocal duets and piano pieces, even gaining an audience with Queen Victoria. After emancipation, they returned to North Carolina, purchased their family's former property, and lived with dignity and self-sufficiency. Though their lives began as commodities of curiosity, they gained full control of their careers and finances. The sisters died in 1912, just 17 hours apart. Millie and Christine's legacy is a powerful story of perseverance, artistry, and reclamation in a society that once tried to define them by difference. Number 4. The Human Fountain. Well, now this is just insane. Haji Ali, an Egyptian-born performer, stunned crowds with his unsettling, unforgettable act, controlled regurgitation. His signature routine involved gulping gallons of water, only to spray it back out in powerful targeted jets. But it got wilder. He'd drink water, then kerosene, ignite a fire with the fuel, and finally extinguish the flames by spewing the water, stored somehow in a separate part of his stomach. It wasn't sleight of hand. There were no gimmicks. Ali's body was simply different. One of his more bizarre feats involved swallowing live goldfish and bringing them back up, alive and unharmed. Audiences couldn't look away, even when they wanted to. Ali's performances were equal parts marvel and discomfort. His control over internal muscles was so advanced, doctors struggled to explain it. He didn't manipulate props, he manipulated his own anatomy. And when he took the stage, you weren't watching a trick. You were watching a body do something no one else could replicate. Number 3, the hair-hanging wonders. Victoria Medeiros and Whitney Neves turned one of the most agonizing performance disciplines into seamless aerial art. As part of the Ringling Brothers Act, Victoria performs suspended in midair, held aloft solely by her tightly braided hair. Hanging below her, upside down, Whitney counters the weight using immense core and back strength. This act isn't just physically brutal, it demands relentless training. Even short breaks set them back. Victoria follows a strict regimen, 0 chemicals, stress management, and a nutrient-heavy diet tailored specifically for hair strength. The rigging process is sacred. Only her husband, Andre, touches her setup. Their most intricate sequence involves silks, descending mid-air while still suspended by hair. Each move must be flawless. No forgiveness, no margin for error. It's not just performance, it's discipline, precision, and shared trust. Victoria doesn't do it for drama. She does it because it belongs to her. Together, they defy gravity not for applause, but for the quiet power of control. Number 2, Miss Rosina, Rose Foster. Miss Rosina performed with astonishing precision, despite being born without arms. Touring across Europe, she executed daily tasks with her feet, each motion deliberate and controlled. She could crochet, thread needles, and even sign autographs using her toes. Her performances weren't rushed or dramatic. They were calm, focused, and graceful. Seated at ornate tables in elegant gowns, Rosina radiated quiet command. While other acts leaned into exaggeration or theatricality, she simply demonstrated what she could do, letting the work speak louder than any pitchman ever could. She didn't provoke shock or pity. Instead, she redefined skill on her own terms. Her poise made the audience stop seeing limitations and start noticing excellence. Very little is known about her personal life or even her real name, but her stage presence left a lasting impression. A poised woman, working with quiet mastery, seated at a decorative table, unbothered, precise, and unforgettable. She wasn't a novelty. She was a statement without ever needing to speak. Number 1, Priscilla Bejano. Priscilla was born in Puerto Rico with hypertrichosis, a rare disorder that caused dense hair growth over her entire body. At age 3, her father took her to New York in hopes that doctors could explain her unusual condition. That journey introduced her to Carl Lowther, a good showman who recognized something special in her and helped launch her sideshow career. Initially hesitant, she became known as the Monkey Girl, a nickname she disliked but couldn't escape. Wearing a tailored fur-trimmed coat, she captivated audiences with her gentle demeanor and distinctive features. In the 1930s, she met Emmett Bejano, famously dubbed the alligator-skinned man. Despite their unique physical challenges, they fell in love, married, and became one of the most cherished couples in circus history. Their relationship turned public fascination into something far deeper, a lasting love story that resonated with crowds well beyond the stage. Together, they stood as symbols of acceptance and genuine affection. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you soon.